but I think likely something that'll be being figured out on the fly, and it'll be really interesting to watch.
This is a test, and let's go ahead and throw it to the stage right now where the players are seated and take a deeper dive into their teams. Chance on the left, Yuki on the right. Again, that's a team. That's a spicy team, Len. That's the Annihilate, Incineroar, Rillaboom, Galarian, Moltres, Sableye, and Comfey. Yuki running a team that has Pokemon that we know what they do with Amoonguss, Thundurus, Urshifu, Archaludon, Incineroar, and Landorus.
Yeah, I mean, a team with spice of its own. The Thundurus instead of Tornadus in order to set up that Prankster Rain Dance. But yeah, let's talk about some of the mechanics here on Chance's team. Not Pokemon that we get to see a lot of. Comfey is here on the team because of its ability Triage. That gives +3 priority to all healing moves. That means both that Draining Kiss and Floral Healing will be operating with priority. Sableye, of course, has a much more familiar priority boosting ability in Prankster, which will mean it can put up Light Screen and Reflect with boost, but also use Will-O-Wisp to mitigate damage coming on the other side. So both these Pokemon, Sableye and Comfey, Sableye mitigating damage with screens and with Will-O-Wisp, Comfey healing back up health using priority floral healing, or to keep Annihilate and Galarian Moltres very healthy while they boost themselves with Bulk Up and Nasty Plot. Moltres also gets an additional boost when it falls below 50% health, something that can happen many more times than once in a game if you're having priority floral healings going into Moltres. And so well, these Pokemon are going to try to accumulate boosts and then sweep their way through Yuki's team. And then those final 2 Pokemon to close out the team composition are the ever-familiar Incineroar and Rillaboom, who form that pivoting core that can also help support those boosting Pokemon. And they're going to be up against what is a Rain team without a Pelipper. You have the Archaludon, the Choice Scarf, Urshifu, Rapid Strike, who love to benefit from that Rain Dance, but it's going to be Thundurus Incarnate setting the Rain Dance. The difference with using Thundurus over the Tornadus, you no longer have access to that Prankster Tailwind. We've seen that support for Urshifu so often, but instead you have a different set of offense coming out of Thundurus. Thunderbolt can be really useful into a lot of different Pokemon, but also have Eerie Impulse, which is a, because of Prankster, priority move that's going to reduce the special attack of a Pokemon on the opposing side by 2 stages. And so it's like Charm, and you're going to be dropping the special attack of things on the other side. You know, you can, you would love to be able to undo, for instance, the Nasty Plot on Moltres and mitigate it, but you're only going to be able to do that if you can force a Terastallization, because the Dark typing on Moltres is going to make it immune to the Eerie Impulse because of Dark type's immunity to Prankster boosted moves. And so it looks like something that's going to be pretty difficult for Yuki to contain.
Yep, Chance offering that if he were to choose a first partner Pokemon, he would choose Yamper. Yuki on the other side, well, the first winner of Joe Brown's VGC history trivia with an asterisk next to it. Yeah. Asterisk next to the winner.
I think we saw him win, pick up his T-shirt. I think, you know, he was the second person to win the prize, but I think actually got all the questions right.
Okay, yeah, all right. Well, that checks out. But yeah, this is a really interesting team over on Chance's side. Like, these are all, usually when you bring a team with less commonly used Pokemon, more underutilized Pokemon, you have one, maybe 2 pushing it, but the fact that there's the 3 here with the Sableye, the Comfey, and that Galarian Moltres those are all 3 Pokemon that we don't commonly see at all.
It's true, but I would argue there are pieces of this team that are way more familiar than they look like. If you look at, you know, I talked about the Raging Bolt earlier in the day is like the core of the Incineroar and Rillaboom team, and in some senses is so popular because it is the best thing to benefit from that core. Well, Galarian, Moltres, and Annihilate are just 2 examples of other Pokemon that can try to benefit from that core. And then Sableye and Comfey are just the kind of Pokemon that can give very dedicated support to a boosting attacker. It's like you take that just Grassy Terrain Fake Out support and crank it up a notch to have this really dedicated support. I think it's going to be interesting to see which of the Pokemon Chance focuses on. You often just kind of want one egg at the center of the basket, whether that's Annihilate or Galarian Moltres, because you want 3 supportive options for it. I'm sure there are game plans that Chance has where he brings both of them. That may be a possibility in this game as well, but probably one of them is going to be more the focus than the other. And I don't think there's a super clear answer from Team Preview which that should be. I think Annihilate has some better matchups across the board, but really doesn't like to fight against the Amoonguss on the other side is going to have a hard time dealing with that, does not have a grass terrestrialization, does not have safety goggles, is going to be vulnerable to Spore and getting redirected the entire time. Galarian Moltres has a lot easier time KOing Amoonguss itself, and so can deal with that, but doesn't have some of the same positive matchups against, for instance, Archaludon, who would love to land an Electro Shot into it. There's not as much defensive boosting for the Moltres, so it's going to look a little bit vulnerable. So it may not be that there's one answer here we may see between a couple of games in the match going back and forth.
Yuki having to double take this team sheet here, just trying to make sure he knows exactly what to do against these Pokemon. And you're right, like, one of the cool things about this team is just like, it's a team that benefits from just, if the game lasts long, then Chance's team does well. Like, Annihilate does, if it keeps getting hit and then healing back up, and then Moltres, if it can continue to get those Berserk boosts, you're right.
It absolutely does, but Archaludon on the other side, also a Pokemon that really loves to have long games. If it can accumulate a couple of stamina boosts, a couple of Electro Shot boosts, then it can also try to win a late game and try to keep up with some of the boosting happening on the other side, and has its own support options as well. The Incineroar and the Amoonguss are pretty good support Pokemon, and I think Yuki has better options for trying to blow an early hole in Chance's team. There is no early aggressive damage from Chance's side. If KOs happen, they're going to happen after a little bit of buildup. But Yuki can get a Choice Scarf Urshifu out on the field, or a Landorus Incarnate, and just threaten a ton of damage into things like Incineroar or Rillaboom, and try to punch that first hole that makes it a lot harder to support that boosting Pokemon at the middle of it all.
And here we go. Both players now will send out their leads, Archaludon and Thundurus over on Yuki's side of the field, while it is Annihilate and Sableye over on Chance's side of the field. So again, this Sableye will be able to set up screens promoting longevity here for this Annihilate on Chance's side of the field.
Yeah, going to be able to set up a light screen, try to mitigate the damage coming in from Archaludon. You can imagine something like an Electro Shot or a Flash Cannon is coming this turn, but the bulk up is not going to help with that. You probably still want it to start getting the attack boost, because you're not going to KO either of these Pokemon too quickly, but a light screen may not be enough damage, especially if it's repeated Electro Shots where Archaludon starts to boost its own special attack in response, are going to really mount damage quickly against this Annihilate.
And Annihilate does use his turn to use bulk up as Thundurus over on Yuki's side sets up the rain. Light screen is set by that Light Clay Sableye, and here is an Electro Shot from that Archaludon. Will boost its special attack by 1 stage here and deal some damage. But again, that light screen from that Sableye will be paying off really well, and Sableye does not take 50% damage. Sableye, not the bulkiest Pokemon, but it is kind of a pesky Pokemon to deal with.
Yeah, it's looking like little enough damage that even with another boost, probably wouldn't be able to pick up the damage on Sableye. And we may be telegraphing a little bit with where the damage is focused. I talked before the match that one of the problems with using Annihilate is that if the Amoonguss is on the other side, it's a problem, but of course Sableye has the priority taunt, would be able to shut down Amoonguss. But if you can get rid of that taunt, then Amoonguss starts to look like a much bigger problem. Also, just maybe that Sableye looks a little bit more vulnerable, and you may be expecting this game to go so long that that first light screen can expire, and you'd like to just not have Sableye around by that point.
Amoonguss will take the field for the Thunders, but the taunt lands right into that Amoonguss, so the Amoonguss will not be able to provide Rage Powder or Spore support, and this Annihilate content to just continue to go for bulk ups, boosting its attack and defense. Now 2 stages of increase both. So the Electro Shot again from Archaludon boosts it to 2 stages of increased special attack now. It's getting scary right here. This Archaludon will start dealing damage, and that light screen won't matter as much if it keeps boosting like this.
Yeah, both Pokemon boosting up quickly. Oh, it is enough damage with the extra stage of special attack to just get the KO on the Sableye. I think that's a pretty important thing. Sableye does manage to land 1 taunt on Amoonguss almost by accident as Amoonguss comes in for what was the Thundurus, but that'll be the only taunt that happens in this game, which means that Thundurus and Amoonguss are going to have a little bit more uncontested presence on the field. But now this Annihilate is a couple times boosted. Amoonguss is taunted, can't try to Rage Powder or support the Archaludon in this moment, and so starts to look like a big attack into Archaludon could be threatening. We've also seen that Annihilate is faster than the Archaludon. Not necessarily something we could have taken for granted, but looks to be the case, which means that Chance doesn't have to find speed control, but Yuki might need to. He does have options like the Thunder Wave on the Thundurus on the other side. I think that's the only speed control option really available. And so if he ever wants to be able to get outpaced this, that'll be the way to make it happen.
Okay, all right. That's some spice. Looks like Chance is turning down his own Annihilate with the Grassy Glide here. Archelodon will Terrasilize, will turn into that Grass type right now. Wants to shake off that weakness to a potential Drain Punch from the Annihilate over on Chance's side, but Chance really using this option right here to give boost to this Annihilate for its Rage Fist attack, and here it is yet another bulk up. So now 3 stages of increased attack and defense. Here's an Electro Shot from Yuki's Archelodon. Again, now this is 3 stages of increased special attack. Will be targeting down what I believe is going to be this Annihilate to try to get damage down onto it. How much damage will it do at 3 stages? Nope, it's actually going to land right into the Rillaboom.
Yeah, Yuki taking a tactic that a lot of players will employ against the Annihilate, which is just refusing to attack it. If you have the Amoonguss on the field, it's really, you're going to take a lot of boosts to start trying to Drain Punch your way through an Amoonguss, and so if you can just refuse to give it a Rage Fist boost and it stays as a 50 base power move, that's a one way to handle it. But Chance has been in this situation before. He's seen players try to do this to him and recognizes he's got to get that to at least 100 base power, and one side Grassy Glide will do that. And now with 3 boosts and a 100 base power Rage Fist, it's starting to look a lot easier to deal with both of these Pokemon. And yes, Archelodon is boosting itself up quickly. Now has 3 stages of boost special attack, but still hasn't actually landed any damage onto this Annihilate yet.
Yep, as again, another side Grassy Glide. That does a lot of damage with the critical hit. Not what you want to see, as Annihilate now with 100 base power Rage Fist will go for it, hits into that Archelodon, and Archelodon hangs on, gets a stamina boost. Not going to matter too much unless that Archelodon can continue to heal up from this grassy terrain multiple times, but that grassy terrain is going to expire once. Yeah, it's going to expire because this Rillaboom has been knocked out. So here's a Pollen Puff, will connect. That is another chance for Yuki's Archelodon to heal. So now that Pollen Puff will heal it back up to a lot of HP.
We saw how much damage that Rage Fist did last turn. That Pollen Puff is not enough to make Archelodon safe. It also has an Assault Vest. It can't protect itself. This taunt expires at perfectly the right moment, though. That's going to give an option to Rage Powder away and attack and let Archelodon continue to go out on the offense. Comfy's going to look pretty vulnerable to a Flash Cannon. I think one more turn without taunt would have really put Archelodon in a hole. Either takes a Rage Fist that turn, or it switches out and loses all of those boosts. But the taunt shakes off at the right moment. I think that side critical hit was impactful as well. And now we're maybe getting to the point where there's so many special attack boosts that the Archelodon would have been able to just KO this Annihilate, but it's going to definitely at least force a side Floral Healing here to get the Annihilate back to full health, because it's been damaged a decent amount from those side Grassy Glides.
Yeah, so the triaged Floral Healing will be able to heal Annihilate back up to max health. In Grassy Terrain actually heals more. Here it is, the Comfy will use Floral Healing, will heal Annihilate back up to max health. Amoonguss can still opt for the Rage Powder. It will go for the Rage Powder here, but it will be taking a big Rage Fist, 100 base power, gonna connect into that Amoonguss. Yeah, 150 base power now.
Yeah, been a couple times boosted and KOs that Amoonguss with just an enormous hit. Meanwhile, this Archelodon continues to boost itself up, using every single turn of this Rain Dance to continue to get those boosts, and is now out on the offense against Annihilate. This is going to be a crucial turn. Is it enough damage?
With the critical hit.
Wow, that could have been an insanely impactful critical hit. I think there was a safer path to this game for Yuki where he tried to just KO the Comfy, because then you can play a 2v1, try to get speed control with the Thunderous, but Comfy could have just protected itself that turn. In this game, so narrow and close that you can't afford that. But because the critical hit land maybe would have just been enough damage anyway, that Archelodon had boosted itself up so much. But it gets the critical hit, KOs Annihilate, and Comfy, well, Comfy doesn't really do anything by itself. That's the, one way to lose with these teams that have just one central core to the team is as soon as it goes down, you just have to click that run button. Comfy's not going to do anything on its own. I think that was a really fascinating game to watch, as both players just kind of boosted up what felt like these unbeatable Pokemon who never actually fought each other until almost the end of the game. They were just busy taking down partners. Yuki recognizing that he needed to get rid of Sableye to prevent future taunts and screens, and because he didn't want to boost the Rage Fist himself, and then continuing to play after that and get other KOs. And then Chance being forced to go after the Amoonguss because of the Rage Powder at the critical moment.
Yeah, and strategy there, just being able to go for those Grassy Glides to boost that Rage Fist power. Again, that's such a crucial, you know, whiffed KO there on to that Archaludon slot. You know, the game would have been different, completely different, if that Archaludon got knocked out, right? Like, that Archaludon was where Yuki had invested a lot of his resources into just staying out on the field and just going for all those boosts.
Yeah, absolutely. It felt like whichever one of those two Pokemon went down first was going to lose their trainer that game. I mean, you know, we never saw like the complete picture of what the game looks like. If Archaludon goes down early, there are, I think, not quite as much dependence on it from Yuki's side as there is from Chance's side on the Annihilate. But still, would have been devastating either direction.
Both players have locked in now. Game 2, Chance needs to force a game 3 if he wants to make it to day 2. Yuki looking for his ticket to day 2. Ooh, a little change up here over on Chance's side of the field. Yuki can lead with Thundurus and the Archaludon. Over on Chance's side, it is the Galarian Moltres and the Sableye.
Well, Yuki sees no problem with the Game 1 game plan. It got him a win, and so Thundurus is out there next to Archaludon once again, but Chance changes it up completely. Goes for a different core, this time with the Moltres out to boost a Pokemon that looks, at the surface, pretty vulnerable against these two Pokemon, both electric-type attackers. And of course, if you try to Terastallize and get away from that weakness, then vulnerable to an Eerie Impulse on the other side that'll mitigate any nasty plots that Moltres goes for. But for now, it's just the Rain Dance, no Terastallization. Chance probably relying on Light Screen to be enough to keep the Moltres safe.
Yeah, so Sableye with the Light Screen. Moltres, the Galarian Moltres will use Nasty Plot here to boost its special attack by 2 stages, as Archaludon will go for an Electro Shot, giving it 1 stage of increased special attack here. And that's going to be something that everybody will need to keep track of watching at home, as well as the players out on the field, and us too. We know that another Electro Shot will be able to KO Sableye from this range after it gets another special attack boost, so Sableye is not safe in this moment. Yeah,
that looks a lot more clear this time. That first Electro Shot doing a decent amount more damage than the first Electro Shot did in the last game, indicating it was a low roll. Once again, Archaludon not immediately going on the offense against the boosting Pokemon, because you don't want to give it extra boosts. In this case, that would be probably dropping it below 50% health and giving it a boost while it's still the fastest Pokemon on the field. Instead, you'd like to get a couple more of these Electro Shot boosts, but even one might be enough to start threatening a KO, depending on how these Pokemon are trained.
Okay. Thundurus on Yuki's side will switch out. Yuki will send out the Urshifu, so more offense over on Yuki's side of the field. Galarian Moltres will Terastallize, become a poison type here, so not wanting to take Electro Shots, just wanting to be able to stay safe and stick around onto the field as much as possible, as Sableye uses Taunt onto the Thunder slot, which is now the Urshifu. So trying to prevent that Thundurus over on Yuki's side of the field to go for Eerie Impulses. And here's another nasty plot from Galarian Moltres. Now that's 4 stages of increased attack, special attack. Yuki's Archaludon now goes for Electro Shot, now at 2 stages of increased special attack, will land into that Galarian Moltres slot, but because of the Terastallization, it's not super effective.
Not super effective, and wouldn't have even been enough damage even if Galarian Moltres hadn't Terastallized. I like that turn from Chance to commit the Terastallization to keep Moltres a little bit healthier, but also put the Taunt onto Thundurus at the same time so that you're not immediately vulnerable to Prankster boosted moves. Of course, that Thundurus is in the back. It's going to come back in at some point, be able to Thunder Wave this Galarian Moltres and slow it down, or go for an Eerie Impulse. But right now, it's the Urshifu that's the problem. It's going to be the fastest thing on the field. It's going to be boosted by Rain Dance. You can't put up a Reflect to try to stop that because they're going to be critical hitting the Surging Strikes. And so it's threatening a lot of damage. Moltres might be able to hang on through it, but if it doesn't, if this is another situation where Chance has this vulnerable boosted Pokemon and has to give up those boosts. But for now, Yuki doesn't want to go for the Surging Strikes, doesn't think it's enough to KO, doesn't want to risk Urshifu, which can always come back in and play that role in the future, but just sends it into the back and has the Amoonguss come out to take that Will-O-Wisp that would have mitigated a lot of that Surging Strikes damage.
Yeah, so Amoonguss now takes the field, gets burned, not going to care too much about that, not as much as that Urshifu will. And here's a Fire Wrath, does big spread damage right there. does activate the stamina. Did get a critical hit there as Amoonguss will eat away at its Citrus Berry and heal back up. Does have a 20% chance to flinch targets here, but nope, no flinches over on that Archaludon. Archaludon uses Electroshot yet again. Now it is currently at 3 stages of increased special attack. It will hit into this Galarian Moltres. Galarian Moltres should be able to hang on, but so much damage has been dealt. Here's a Berserk boost, so now Galarian Moltres is at 5 stages increased special attack. You really want that Comfy out on the field right now.
Well, I actually think that Berserk boost is really important because you can see Archaludon took that first Fiery Wrath for just under half health. By the way, really impressive from both the defense of the Archaludon and how little offensive training is probably on this Galarian Moltres that a +4 Fiery Wrath did less than 50% to this Archaludon. But that extra Berserk boost probably means that's enough damage to pick up the KO on Archaludon. Galarian Moltres is the first thing moving. Amoonguss can't do anything to stop this. It's a spread move. That's just 2 KOs being threatened. And you don't want to bring your Thundurus or your Urshifu into a +5 special attack Fiery Wrath. Archaludon can't protect itself. It's got an Assault Vest on. There's really nothing that's going to be able to save this. And meanwhile, Sableye has done its job. It's got the screen up. It doesn't need to do anything on this turn because 2 KOs are being threatened, and so it is free for the Comfy to come back in and be able to threaten on the next turn that side floral healing to get Galarian Moltres back high in health. It is going to be the Urshifu trying to come in and take this Fiery Wrath. We're going to have to see how much it does.
Fire Wrath connects onto both targets over there. Archaludon hangs on with just a sliver of health, not enough. And another stamina boost to boot. And here is an Electroshot. Connects into that Galarian Moltres and will be able to secure the KO. So, wow, that is an unfortunate whiff of a KO on Chance's side. We saw it get another boost, but it just wasn't enough.
Yeah, I mean, the 5th boost, every boost contributes less to the damage than the boost prior. So that 5th boost, it doesn't contribute that much extra damage, but also must have been a damage roll for that first Fiery Wrath to come so close to doing 50%, and then after a boost for it to not be able to pick it up. The game really just falls apart, Chance, in that moment. As soon as Moltres goes down, it looks very difficult for him to fight this back. Not going to give it up in this situation. Still has 3 Pokemon, has Rillaboom at full health, and a couple of very chipped low Pokemon around. The Amoonguss, after eating a Citrus Berry and getting a Regenerator, is going to be looking a little bit healthier. But these Pokemon on the field are very low and maybe in Grassy Glide KO range. Comfy also has priority with its Draining Kiss that can try to pick up the KO on maybe either of these Pokemon.
Rillaboom also has access to Fake Out, so could go for a Fake Out and Draining Kiss option here. You have to watch out. Fake Out probably won't be able to get the KO on that Archaludon because of its stamina boost, but I think the Draining Kiss, it might be in range for the KO there. So, you know, Chance trying to fight back here has options, but it's an uphill battle. It's an uphill battle, but the low health bars on Yuki's side are a sign of hope, a sign of life. I think it's going... The Thundurus probably also doesn't have much damage output in this position, but I think the Amoonguss made the thing that's very difficult to deal with. Neither of these Pokemon are going to have a lot of damage output against it. And it also has the Sludge Bomb to go on the offensive itself, even if Amoonguss has to try to get this job done. It's a double switch over on Yuki's side of the field. Thundurus and Amoonguss will take the field. And again, that Regenerator ability is so important to just be able to heal back after you switch out. Draining Kiss doesn't do anything at all, and here's a Grassy Glide that connects into that Thunder slot. Not very effective as the rain stops here. So this is really good positioning right here for Yuki. I mean, this Amoonguss is also comfortable to just kind of Rage Powder away anything. You do have to watch out for the high horsepower from the Rillaboom, but that's all you really have to watch out for. Yeah, Amoonguss and Thundurus both just very defensively strong against these 2 Pokemon. Rillaboom can try, like you say, to go on the offensive with high horsepower, but it's going to be slow going. The damage is there if you can get to those Pokemon in the back, but you also have to be keeping in mind that you really do need these priority options. If one of them goes down and then the Urshifu comes out, or the Archaludon, and you don't have those priority options to just quickly take care of them, then again, they look like potent Pokemon where they weren't a second ago. Thundurus will use Thunder Wave, slows down Rillaboom, and also gets the chance for Paralysis. Rillaboom high horsepower is into the Amoonguss slot, does do some pretty good damage. It's close as to whether or not another high horsepower will be able to get the KO as Comfy protects itself from the Sludge Bomb. Comfy protects itself from the Sludge Bomb. That burn also paying some dividends for Chance here. It means that the Amoonguss is not getting healthier in this grassy terrain instead of just maintaining its same health at the end of each turn. And that's pretty important because the Amoonguss is
getting whittled down slowly but surely. Wouldn't be surprised to see Yuki opt for a generator boost. That's actually a pretty important amount of damage given how slow Chance is able to contribute damage onto either of these Pokemon. And both things in the back maybe really just don't have that much value because they are so low health and because of the priority options available Chance's side. But also a full paralysis could just shift this game at any moment.
Amoonguss will opt for a regenerator healing option here. Will switch out. It will be the Archaludon who is heavily damaged here, as Comfy will use Draining Kiss and connect onto that Archaludon to get the KO. Most likely doubling up into that slot to opt for, you know, maybe the high horsepower doesn't necessarily get the KO. Thunderbolt from Thundurus will land into the Comfy for some pretty decent damage as the high horsepower connects into the Thundurus, which doesn't do anything because Thundurus is flying.
Yeah, high horsepower doesn't do anything, but one Pokemon goes down for Yuki, and Chance really doesn't pay much of a cost for it. That Thunderbolt just does so little as Grassy Terrain continues to heal back the Comfy, but it's the Amoonguss that is the problem for Chance to deal with. The Amoonguss is going to be the one that's hardest to find the damage to put together, and maybe the Amoonguss that actually does the most damage at this point. And so it comes back in with a lot more health than it left the field with, and the Urshifu comes back in at the same time.
Yep, Comfy will protect itself, does not want to get KO'd from a Sludge Bomb here, as looks like it's going to be a Wood Hammer into that Urshifu slot. Will get the KO, so now Thundurus and Amoonguss are going to be the last two Pokemon for Yuki. Sableye still hiding in the back right there for Chance, but Sableye doesn't really provide much. Could set up another screen possibly, as a Pollen Puff from that Amoonguss lands into nowhere, trying to find a turn to really heal back up that Thundurus, or if, you know, Chance invested all of his eggs into the Amoonguss basket, then would be able to heal up the Thundurus.
Yeah, it could have been a really impactful moment. There's not that much time left in this grassy terrain. If Urshifu could have come in and gotten healed, could have then been able to take a Draining Kiss if you can get away from the Grassy Glide threat, then suddenly Surging Strikes is back available again. It would be a lot of great damage. But yeah, it's starting to look more and more like Chance just has the tools he needs. Even without that boosting Pokemon in the middle, just has the defensive options he needs to work his way through this team. I think the Grassy Terrain expiring may actually be to Chance's benefit, because then Amoonguss will start to go down on its own. The other crucial thing about that Urshifu KO is that now Amoonguss will never get another regenerator boost. It's stuck on the field for the rest of the time. If you can get rid of that 60% of Amoonguss health, and this Thundurus continues to do very little damage, then 1 HP.
1 HP. Here's a high horsepower from that Rillaboom, does damage into that Amoonguss, as Amoonguss will go for Spore, though, will be putting that Sableye to sleep. So, you know, hang on with 1 HP. I guess it is asleep now, so it can't set up a light screen. So if it survived and it wasn't put to sleep, then it cannot set up another light screen.
Yeah, the Sableye is going to contribute nothing to this battle, whether it went down to the Thunderbolt or because it gets spored and eventually KO'd. But the one thing it can contribute is time, and time is in Chance's favor. The longer this goes with the burn trickling down on Amoonguss and Yuki struggling to find the damage, the more in favor it is. But now those Thunderbolts start to add up, but look how little they do. The Assault Vest on Rillaboom coming in there and really mitigating this damage.
Oh, and Rillaboom hangs on, as Amoonguss will most likely, it's close to see if it will be able to survive another turn of burn. Len, you said that you're a great counter for burn counters.
I think that's a KO.
That's a KO?
Yeah, I don't think that Amoonguss can take another turn of burn. Of course, I don't think Chance wants to let it Sludge Bomb again either, and so may just opt to KO it first anyway, because we saw how little that Thunderbolt does into Rillaboom.
Ooh, Sableye wakes up, does set up a light screen here, so more turns of boosted special defense here, as that Thunderbolt does absolutely nothing. Here's a Wood Hammer that connects into the Amoonguss, does get the KO there. So now it's going to be Thundurus versus Sableye. Rillaboom and Comfy in the back. Comfy, if it can take the field, can heal back this Rillaboom. So not over yet.
Yeah,
Chance
there
got
are a
tools.
lot of great options for Chance now. He wants to reset Grassy Terrain. Thundurus would not be getting it because it's a flying type that his Pokemon would be. He can get Comfy out and start healing his Pokemon that way. He can put a Will-O-Wisp down onto the Thundurus and start accumulating damage that way. It just looks like a lot more work than is possible for Thundurus to deal with these 3 Pokemon and the defensive and sustain options that they provide.
Comfy will take the field here as Sableye goes for the taunt into that Thundurus, does not want to allow Thundurus to Thunder Wave other Pokemon. Here's the Thunderbolt from that Thundurus, hits into that Comfey, and because the Light Screen does no damage whatsoever, so now an opportunity for Rillaboom to possibly come in to a to a Floral Healing.
There's nothing that can stop this play now. The Rillaboom will come in. The +3 priority Floral Healing will go into that slot, and all of that long, hard work Yuki did, repeated Thunderbolt and Sludge Bombs, will be wiped away in a moment with the grassy terrain boosted Floral Healing, nearly full healing, or maybe entirely healing this Rillaboom.
Yeah, so here's the Floral Healing, Triage boosted, healing the Rillaboom for so much HP, right back up to max health as the Comfey continues to take a barrage of Thunderbolts here. Will eat away at its Citrus Berry, a well-deserved Citrus Berry for this Comfey after providing so much triage to this Rillaboom.
Yeah, this Comfey providing enormous value in this game. Provided value at one point as a damage threat. Remember, earlier on in this game, Yuki had two big attackers on the field. Like, felt like he could press so much offense, but it was the Grassy Glide and the Floral Healing, or the Draining Kiss that diffused that. Meant that Yuki couldn't actually get any attacks off. He was forced to double switch out into two Pokemon that really had no damage presence. They were just taking hits, but they weren't able to do anything back. And that slow slog of a fight we got into from that point on was always in Chance's favor. He was just able to sustain better than Yuki was able to, and just slowly accumulate the right damage. The Regenerator was the only real source of healing for Yuki, and after a couple of KOs were spent, there was no more Regenerator, and Amoonguss was slowly getting worn down. I think it was just really well played by Chance to continue to find what the path was in that game.
Yeah, what a fight this was. I mean, this Galarian Moltres was at some point 5 stages of increased special attack. It didn't get a KO at all. It did not get a KO with 5 stages of increased special attack. You know, the Urshifu switching in for that Amoonguss to be able to withstand that barrage, as well as that Archaludon being able to hang on from 2 of those after that Berserk boost. And this is something that, in my mind, that I thought was this Galarian Moltres is the damage dealer of Chance's team. You've just lost your damage dealer and you have to go up against 4 other Pokemon. How do you do it? I didn't believe.
Yeah, he found a way. I think that's what's so impressive. I think a lot of players would kind of see the writing on the wall in that situation, maybe not click the run button, would not be fighting as hard to keep their hopes alive for day 2 as Chance was there, and finding the way back in, finding the way to reset this at 1-1, one final game to decide who's going to move on to day 2.
Yeah, so that was an intense battle. I mean, that's mentally exhausting. Like, you know, if you're going into the mindset of Yuki right now, you had that opportunity to take such strong advantage because, like, you know, you knocked out that Galarian Moltres, and then all of a sudden your team is getting picked apart by this Assault Vest Rillaboom. Yes, Rillaboom is a very strong Pokemon, right? It has offensive options, but you have this Rillaboom going up against this Amoonguss. You have this Rillaboom going up against Archaludon, which if it Terraslized could resist, and then all of a sudden it's like, well, this Rillaboom Comfey Sableye lead just picked my team apart. As we get now into game 3 here, same leads for Yuki, Archaludon, and Thundurus. Over on Chance's side, it's going to be the same leads as well. It is the Sableye and the Galarian Moltres.
Yeah, so right back to it. No Annihilate on the field once again. It is Moltres, and no hesitation on the Terastallization this time. Straight into the Poison type for Galarian Moltres. I wonder if that isn't preemptive. That means it's going to be a little bit easier for Thundurus to try to have an effect on this game without having to straight switch out the way it did game 1 and 2.
Yep, Thundurus.
Taunt immediately this time.
Yeah, taunt immediately this time. Thundurus will set up Rain Dance again, just to set up for that Urshifu in the back. Here's a nasty pot from this Galarian Moltres. This time around, I don't think Chance wants to risk any opportunities for this Electro shot to target down into this Galarian Moltres. Looks like it will be an Electro shot. It will target down the Galarian Moltres at +1 stage of special attack. So not opting for the light screen just yet. You do have to watch out though. Another Electro shot will be able to get the KO, so Sableye forced to use Light Screen this turn.
Yeah, I don't think Sableye is unhappy with that. The light screen needs to go down at some point.
Yeah.
Now is as good of a time as any. It's going to keep Moltres a little bit healthier. I do think Chance has to watch out that the damage doesn't accumulate just too fast. The Galarian Moltres went down in that last game because Comfy was one turn too late coming out onto the field to try to heal it. It's not looking like Comfy's going to be any faster to the field this time. I don't think Chance wants to rely on winning the game in the same way he had to last time. He'd much rather the Moltres have more staying power, but he's forced to go on the offense sooner. That isn't +4 Fiery Wrath, that's +2 Fiery Wrath. And so it does a lot less damage to this Archaludon.
Yep, it could be +3 here if this Electroshock targets down the Galarian Moltres, which it does. So the Berserk will activate as Moltres will get one more stage of increased special attack here. So now it's at 3 stages, but at the same time, Galarian Moltres is hurt. And it looks like he's just going to switch out this Galarian Moltres right here. Doesn't want to stick around. Just going to sacrifice those 3 stages of increased special attack to be able to pivot and not have that Galarian Moltres be sacrificed.
Well, recognizing that there's no real way to protect it.
Right.
I mean, he can try to Will-O-Wisp the Urshifu the same way that the play that he made in the previous game, but it might still be enough damage to pick up the KO onto the Galarian Moltres that's a little bit lower this time and doesn't want to have to give it up that early. And so Rillaboom is going to come out onto the field sooner. Galarian Moltres can still have a big impact in this game. It only takes 1 Floral Healing to reset that health bar on Galarian Moltres and undo the work that Yuki has put in. The only problem in the meantime, the burn is great, but the Archaludon is probably going to continue to be boosting itself up.
Yeah. So you have
Galarian Moltres, if it comes back out, is not going to be facing a neutral special attack Archaludon, but a very boosted special attack Archaludon.
Yeah, so now what does Chance have to try to take down this Archaludon before it can do more damage? As here is yet another Electro Shot. More special attack boost for this Archaludon. At this point, I don't think it will get the KO. I don't think it will get the one-hit KO on that Sableye. If Sableye does hang on with just a little bit of health here, so Archaludon, again, those boosts are getting really scary, so Chance now has to figure out a way to deal with this Archaludon.
Yeah, I mean, I think there are positive things in that turn for Chance. Gets the burn onto the Urshifu. That means it's going to be doing much less damage for the rest of this game. And keeps the Galarian Moltres safe, but the Archaludon just continuing to get healthier with the grassy terrain down. That first +2 Fiery Wrath is very quickly getting healed off, and meanwhile the Archaludon is boosting itself up and looking like it's going to start just cleaning up Chance's team.
Yeah, and that Archaludon does have a stamina boost from taking that Fiery Wrath, so it is going to be an uphill battle for Chance yet again here, as Urshifu will switch out. It is going to be the Amoonguss here, but Sableye just going for the taunt into that slot, so good taunt right there to make sure that that Amoonguss cannot Rage Powder away any attacks or even go for some Spores here. As here's Rillaboom with a high horsepower, super effective damage, but it gets another stamina boost, and I think it might be out of range from a KO at this point, as Archaludon content to just go for another Electroshot and continue to boost.
Yeah, I think that is really solid damage to get, though. Make sure that this grassy terrain doesn't just try to get Archaludon back to full health. You have to worry about a Pollen Puff just landing and undoing it. If you miss the KO next turn and you just bring something like Comfy that doesn't have damage presence of its own out on the field, then Pollen Puff could quickly undo all of that work. And every time you have to try for an attack into Archaludon, you're just boosting its defense and making it harder. So I think this is a really tricky decision for Chance. If you bring in Moltres, you can maybe right now go for the double up onto Archaludon and actually get a KO. But you may give up something enormous in the process. For instance, Galarian Moltres getting put to sleep. That makes it a lot harder to deal with the Pokemon in the back.
Well, so because it got taunted.
It got taunted on the switch in.
Yeah.
But anyway, it's Comfy.
But you have to watch out for the Sludge Bomb.
The Sludge Bomb could do a lot of damage. The Comfy comes in, though. And I think this... right now, Comfy doesn't really have a great job to play. Comfy wants to be adjacent to a damaged Pokemon that it can heal, or up against something very low that it can try to pick off with the Draining Kiss, but instead just protects itself because it doesn't really have anything better to do on this turn.
And does not want to take a Sludge Bomb from that Amoonguss. Here's another high horsepower into that Archaludon slot. Again, those stamina boosts are paying off so much, as here is an Electro Shot from this Archaludon. It has so many boosts to its special attack already. Just adding on one more, just kind of hitting into that Comfy slot, though. So here is Amoonguss. It will be going for a Pollen Puff, and that's going to heal that Archaludon right back up.
that Pollen Puff immediately starts to make this game look impossible for Chance. You saw the work he had to put in to just get that damage onto Archaludon in the first place. That was a +2 Fiery Wrath and then 2 high horsepowers. The damage isn't even easier the second time. The stamina defense boosts have come in and mitigated what that high horsepower is. It's never going to be Comfy that gets it done. It's really unclear how it's going to be Galarian Moltres that gets it done when it's already low in health and fighting against an extremely boosted Archaludon.
Yep, so Moltres will take the field here, but again, this floral healing will connect onto that Galarian Moltres, but even if it heals back up to full health, doesn't get there. But here's a Flash Cannon, does connect onto that Comfy, does get the KO there, so now down to Rillaboom and that Galarian Moltres, as the Amoonguss will be able to move, will use Pollen Puff here, and again, that Archaludon is now back to full health. So all the work that was spent from Chance to try to weaken and whittle away this Archaludon has been completely undone by the grassy terrain and 2 Pollen Puffs.
Yeah, and Yuki just pulls further and further ahead as Amoonguss shakes off his taunt and is going to be able to threaten a Spore. That KO was really unavoidable for Chance on that turn. The Comfy had protected on the previous turn. Of course, you can't just switch in the Galarian Moltres into that slot and lose it instead. And so Comfy goes down, gets one last crucial floor of healing off to boost Moltres, but we've seen how much damage a +2 Fiery Wrath does. We've seen how much damage a +4 Fiery Wrath does. Neither of those are enough damage, and there's not going to be time to accumulate the +6 couple of Fiery Wraths that you would need to actually deal with this Archaludon. It starts to look extremely difficult.
Where there's a Fire Wrath, there is a way, though. Amoonguss will switch out here. Thundurus will take the field. Fire Wrath does have a flinch chance, so that might be the best option right now. Chance does use Fiery Wrath, hits into the Archaludon. Does Archaludon flinch here, as Rillaboom will go for a high horsepower, fishing for a critical hit. That's going to be so important right now to break through all of these stamina boosts, but it doesn't. And here's a Dragon Pulse from that Archaludon. Does connect into the Rillaboom. Rillaboom hangs on. Again, that Light Screen and that Assault is so important.
Yeah, able to keep Rillaboom alive even against such a booster Archaludon. And you hit the nail on the head. You can see where Chance is at in this game. There's no straightforward path back. So instead, you're fishing for Fiery Wrath flinches, and you're fishing for Stomping Tantrum crits to actually put the damage together. With Thunder Wave, that just got rid of any option for a Fiery Wrath crit. You're now slower. You cannot Fire Wrath flinch. You're slower. You will not be
Here's a high
flinching.
horsepower, no crit there. You cannot break through that stamina boost, but yeah, that Thunder Wave is so important right here. And here's a Dragon Pulse from that Archaludon, does get the KO on that Rillaboom. So now it's this paralyzed Galarian Moltres just versus all the Pokemon on Yuki's side of the field.
Yeah, Yuki just very cleanly moving through this game. He took an unsurmountable lead and then knew how to close it out. Focusing damage on Rillaboom so that as few high horsepowers had to come through as possible, using the Thunder Wave to make sure the Fiery Wrath couldn't extend and give an extra opportunity for a high horsepower to come through. And now Galarian Moltres, we've seen how much damage it does. Even if it gets a couple of Fiery Wrath crits, those just aren't going to be enough damage. It can't get flinches. It's just kind of a writing on the wall at this point.
Critical hit on that Thundurus, but again, it is currently at one stage of decreased special attack. Here's another Eerie Impulse. Will lower it down to 3 stages of decreased special attack. But again, that Thundurus with that paralysis is so important as the Dragon Pulse connects onto Chance's Moltres and gets the KO. And Yuki Zaninovich is going to move on to day 2 here at the Orlando Regional Championships.
Yeah, I think Yuki just played that really well, weathered the storm with his Archaludon, recognized that it would just keep boosting and was in a better position than that Galarian Moltres. I think the path of the match is really interesting because I think Game 1, the Annihilate seemed stronger within that game than Galarian Moltres ever felt in Game 2 or 3. But Chance, the win he actually got was with the Galarian Moltres in Game 2, and so maybe felt like that was the better path in, and so stuck with it in Game 3, but it just never felt like it had what he needed. It was forced to be a Terra Hog because it was weak to Electroshock. Even with boosts, it wasn't doing that much damage into the Archaludon, and it just ended up kind of providing not that little, while all of its friends around it spent everything they had to try to help it.
Game 3, taking a look back, right, a little bit different. Chance did not opt for getting as many boosts as he did in Game 2. Opted to just start going on the offensive for after just one nasty plot. And again, we saw how much damage a +5 special attack boosted Fire Wrath did to Archaludon. Not even 50%. So Chance just trying to kind of like, it's diminishing returns, right? If you keep boosting, you're not going to be dealing as much damage as you would just two +2 boosted Fiery Wrath. So he just started going on the offense there.
It's fair, but the +2 Fiery Wraths just weren't doing enough damage. It was going to take too many of them. And I think part of the problem was that he had to immediately not use the light screen and take the first electro shot without it, which kind of put him behind the damage curve. I mean, Galarian Moltres was going down even faster, but that was almost a forced play, because if he had tried to just get up light screen on that turn and not taunt the Thunderous, then he has two options. He either doesn't Terastallize the Galarian Moltres and takes even more damage than he actually took from Electro Shot, or he doesn't do anything about the Thunderous on the other side, and it'll be free to use a Prankster move into the Galarian Moltres on the subsequent turn. We saw how Chance really didn't want to have that happen. Both times that he Terastallized Moltres, he immediately taunted the Thunderous on the same turn to prevent it, but because he had to take those pains to prevent that opportunity, he paid a pretty high cost in health.
Yeah, so going back to game one, like you said, Annihilate was kind of the Pokemon that on paper seemed like it would do really well, but I think one thing that Yuki did really well was just positioning that Amoonguss right up against that Annihilate. That made it kind of difficult for Chance to be able to go like, well, I can't just sweep with this Annihilate because I have to pick off targets one by one. Maybe the Galarian Moltres will be able to do better, get some nasty plot boosts up, be able to, you know, ideally the situation would be kind of teeter in and out of Berserk range all the time and continue to get those boosts. I mean, it doesn't matter once he hit +6. He got close. It was +5, but then the Fire Wrath just wasn't doing enough damage. Like, it didn't get the KO on the Archaludon. Archaludon is so bulky that Assault Vest was so important. And I think the important thing was just getting... The important thing is in Game 2, getting that Archaludon down to just a sliver of health and being able to pick it off, basically not allowing that Amoonguss to take the field in Pollen Puff. Those Pollen Puffs in Game 3, crucial. Yeah,
I mean, that was the end of the game, right? It felt like there was some path to claw and get rid of the Archaludon before it was too late, but as soon as that first Pollen Puff landed into Archaludon, hope was a little bit lost. At that point, the Archaludon just had too much health. It was not possible to stop the second Pollen Puff. And then you just have a full health Archaludon with a bunch of boosts on both sides, just ready to move through your team. I think Yuki's game plan was really smart in that regard. Just fight fire with fire. Have your boosting Pokemon in from the beginning against the other one. I think it could have been tempting to have something like Landorus on the field that could just provide a bunch of instant offense. You know, there are paths where you just 2-hit KO Annihilate with Earth Power while it tries to boost. But recognizing that those paths are maybe a little bit more flawed, and just having Archaludon to boost itself, be the one that actually can win in the end game was what Yuki needed.
Yeah. Let's go ahead and throw it down to the lounge with Joe Brown and Yuki, the winner of Swiss Round 9. Take it away, Joe.
Thank you very much, Dewey and Len. We are here with our final winner of the day, of day one here at the Orlando Regional Championships. A rare situation, Yuki, where you are one of the only people that's actually won twice on stream on day one, as you won the trivia earlier today. So congratulations on that. Was like a really long set for a round 9 match. How are you feeling?
Good, yeah, thanks, Joe. I remember when we were doing our little trivia game earlier, you said, you know, best of luck in the games. And I said, well, you know, I think your questions are pretty hard. I might need a bit more luck in the trivia, but actually I think I got pretty lucky in that set. So yeah, I think I got lucky in multiple ways today. And I'm feeling really, really good. Yeah, I think it works out anyway. That's the storyline. That's just what happens in competitive Pokemon, right? Absolutely.
So talk me through that. You're sitting down for team preview and you see, Galarian Moltres and Sableye and Floral Healing and all the comfy, like these are not the top 12 usage Pokemon that you're used to facing at a conventional round 9 position, right? So how do you approach a team matchup like that?
Yeah, so I mean, the two main attackers my opponent had was Annihilate and Moltres, and as you saw in game 1, I was pretty happy to see the Annihilate because it doesn't really do immediate damage. Moltres can do, it can boost its stats by 2 every time, but Annihilate can only do 1. And that kind of gets outpaced by Electro Beam because while they have to, boost their stats by using status moves, I can use a special attacking move. I can do a lot of damage while raising my moves. So Annihilate, I can kind of just let it sit there and get my boost going and, recover with my Amoonguss, and that worked out really well for me in game 1. But in game 2, they really adjusted what I was really scared of, which is bringing in the Moltres. And yes, I can do super effective damage with Electro Beam, but if they Terra, it gets a little bit tricky, and they have Will-O-Wisp on the Sableye, so I just had to really maneuver when my Urshifu comes in, when my Moongus comes in, and I think it worked out for me.
And I feel like your team composition was so interesting because you had Archaludon and the Thundurus, where Thundurus is really not as popular
Yes.
as it used to be in prior years of VGC, right? So what led you to bringing those two specific Pokemon here, and how did it help you in this matchup?
Yeah, so Thundurus was actually a pick I really liked, and I kind of had my eyes on for a few months. Like, it's a really good Pokemon because, first of all, yeah, everybody loves Thunder Wave, right? And you can really raise the damage thing on Urshifu by using Rain Dance. You know, Urshifu has the Choice Scarf item. It can move before a lot of Pokemon, and just being able to boost its, really strongest move by 1.5 is really, really strong in Rain. So it just had really good synergy there. And it can just really disrupt opponents really well with Eerie Impulse. I actually didn't know that you could Eerie Impulse ground-type Pokemon, so it can kind of, wall Landorus because, their Sludge Bombs will do, maybe 25% or something like that into my Thundurus after one Eerie Impulse. And if I have my own Landorus there, then yeah, I think it can really win that mirror well. So I prepared a lot against what a lot of people colloquially call the balance teams. I think Thundurus can really disrupt really well there. So, and then Archaludon, yeah, I think I was able to kind of show what happens if you let Archaludon go a bit unchecked.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, I think your team really showcased the importance of like damage mitigation, right? Because you have the stamina boost on your Archaludon, which like it took a Stomping Tantrum and it did maybe like 8%. You had so many stamina boost, and then once your opponent trash slides into a poison type on the Galarian Moltres, then you were free to Eerie Impulse, where if it was a dark type, the Prankster would have stopped. So, why do you think the damage mitigation on your team is so important?
Yeah, I mean, that's where Amoonguss really comes into play. Like, I get basically an infinite health pack, right, with Pollen Puff. So if I can mitigate my opponent's damage while also doing some damage myself, positioning well so I can recover, then, I think I can slowly whittle down my opponent while my, health gauges are pretty high. I think the one concern on my team is maybe I might lack a little bit of offensive output. So if their, offensive pressure is a little bit too much for me, then maybe I don't have the time to heal and mitigate damage and things like that. So yeah, that time I have to, really outplay my opponent.
And then, of course, can't end the interview and can't end day one without asking for your shout-outs for any friends or family that are watching along.
Thank you. Yeah. I always have a lot of great friends who help me prepare. Wolf, Marcus, Aaron Trailer, Aaron Zhang, Barish, Dylan. I hope I'm not forgetting people. I also had Yusei who helped me out with this. And then, yeah, even outside of Pokemon, I want to give a special shout out to my friend Chansey. He actually just started playing Pokemon recently, and at the last Vancouver Regionals, actually went positive. Even it was their, first tournament, and really only started playing Pokemon for a week. So I'm really proud of him, and I hope he keeps playing.
Oh, that's awesome. Shout out to Chansey. Best of luck in the future for your future Pokemon events. But Yuki, congratulations. We'll see more of you tomorrow. Maybe you'll actually wear your winning t-shirt on stream. I was kind of expecting to see the t-shirt.
Yeah, I was going to say, the Orlando weather, I'm not able to hold up with this long sleeve shirt, so I think I might just do that.
All right, cool. So we'll let you celebrate with your friends, and we're going to actually toss back to the desk here as we get Gabby and Jake headed into the lounge. So going to need Len and Dewey to talk just for a little bit, guys.